Cold cases usually don't get solved, but when they do, it's a bittersweet feeling for everyone involved. That includes the family members of the people who've worked the case, sometimes for decades. In this video, we bring you 3 cold cases solved in 2022 due to technological advancement. Mary Jane Thompson. On February 13, 1984, authorities were called to a warehouse on Irvine Boulevard in the Stempsons corridor of northwest Dallas, Texas. As reported by the Dallas Morning News, the body of a young woman was found near the railroad tracks behind the warehouse, and it appeared that she had been murdered.
A Dallas woman killed, her body found behind a warehouse tonight.
Detectives eventually identified the victim as 21-year-old Mary Jane Thompson. The Dallas Morning News reports they also confirmed she was sexually assaulted and strangled with her own leg warmers. Although evidence including bodily fluids was collected during an autopsy, DNA technology was not available at the time. However, the evidence was well preserved and would end up being crucial in eventually solving the case. For years, the case seemed to be going nowhere, but in 2009, the Dallas Police Department decided to reopen Thompson's case and subsequently submitted the previous collected evidence for DNA testing. However, the lab was only able to confirm the killer was an unknown male. As the DNA profile compiled in 2009 did not match anyone, the Mary Jane Thompson case went cold again. CBS News reported that as authorities were unable to identify a suspect, the case remained unsolved for another 9 years. But in 2018, the Dallas Police Department opened Thompson's case once again. This time, though, they also sought assistance from the District Attorney's Office and the FBI in their quest to identify a suspect and finally bring the family some closure. DNA profiles from unknown suspects are traditionally compared with criminal databases. Unfortunately, only a limited number of criminals are included in those databases. In recent years, authorities have found genealogical databases to be helpful when a suspect's DNA is not available on criminal databases. By searching genealogical databases, authorities only need to find a relative to eventually lead them to a suspect. In a press release dated February 18, 2022, the Dallas Court District Attorney's Office announced that they were able to determine that the DNA kept since Mary Jane Thompson's 1984 murder belonged to a man named Edward Morgan. According to the release, Morgan was subsequently arrested and charged with 1 count of capital murder. Morgan is currently being held in the Dallas County Jail, where he awaits trial. His bond was set at $500,000, and he is facing the death penalty if convicted. Upon hearing about Morgan's arrest, Thompson's sister, Selena Tomasello, posted a response on her Facebook page. Tomasello said she was thrilled to finally get the call she had been waiting 38 years for. She said she knows Thompson is looking down and happy that they finally got him. Tomasello also said she was happy someone was finally arrested and that she plans to attend Morgan's trial. Tomasello hopes Morgan will be in jail for the rest of his life. Roxanne Leigh Woods. On February 20, 1987, Roxanne Leigh Woods and her husband spent the night out at the former HI's Old Town Saloon in downtown Niles, Michigan. Roxanne left for home before her husband, Terry. When Terry arrived at home around 1 a.m., he reportedly found his wife dead on the floor. Roxanne had apparently been hit on the head with a frying pan and her throat was cut. Although divers spent hours searching nearby Brandywine Creek for the murder weapon, it was never found. However, a sheath for a knife was located near Roxanne's body. Though Terry was named as the main suspect in the original investigations, as well as in subsequent investigations into the cold case, he was never arrested, due at least in part to fear from the prosecuting attorney. After that, the case went cold. It was reopened in August of 2020. 2 detectives reportedly went through some 3,300 pages of documents, re-reviewed the original evidence from local police, and then conducted additional interviews and surveillance. Just shy of her 35th anniversary, police finally arrested a suspect after a team of Western Michigan University students helped crack the case. Program Director Ashlyn Kirsten estimates doctoral students Ashley Schlobeck and Carl Huber put in around 1,200 hours of work over 8 months on Wood's case, organizing several boxes of files that had been amassed during the investigation. Patrick Gillum, age 67, was charged with murdering Roxanne Leigh Wood. He is accused of breaking into Wood's home in Niles Township and cutting her throat. Gillum was directly implicated when DNA evidence from a cigarette found outside his South Bend home during 3-day-long surveillance matched DNA evidence found on Wood's body after Gillum was identified as a suspect. Undercover units surveilled him extensively, and he was interviewed on 2 separate occasions. The students had regular meetings with detectives throughout the investigation to identify potential new leads or share loose ends that needed to be tied up. Schlebeck and Huber also sat in on a conversation between detectives and the suspect in Wood's murder when they first brought him in for questioning. While the family waited, Detective Chuck Christensen noted time was also helpful because relationships change and people that maybe wouldn't have talked 15 years ago now will talk, the detective explained. Christensen said having students who can handle important administrative tasks that go into the organization of files is a force multiplier for his team. An arrest is a milestone in any case, but this one was personal for Christensen. He's been involved in the investigation since 2001 and has had multiple conversations with Woods' family. Gillum pleaded no contest and agreed to be sentenced to at least 23 years in prison. Viola Hagenkord. Viola Hagenkord was a 79-year-old grandmother who lived alone in her small Anaheim apartment. She was known to prop open her front door with the Campbell's soup can in the evenings, a habit that made some neighbors worry for her. After not seeing her leave her home for several days, a neighbor grew concerned and went into her apartment on February 18, 1980, looking for the elderly woman, only to discover her body sprawled out across her bed. Police reportedly said that she had been sexually assaulted and sustained multiple broken ribs from a beating. She had been gagged with a piece of torn pillowcase that eventually caused her to suffocate. There were reportedly no signs of forced entry to the apartment, but police said the state of the bedroom suggested a struggle. The case went unsolved for decades until advances in technology allowed investigators to test DNA recovered from semen found at the scene, per the Register. Analysts created a DNA profile of the suspect and ran it through law enforcement databases, which returned a match for Andre William Lepere.
A man living in New Mexico has been convicted in a California cold case murder from the 1980s.
Lepere, who was 22 at the time of the murder, had a sister who also lived in the apartment complex at the time of the crime. Lepere, who moved to New Mexico in the 80s, took the stand to testify in his own defense during the trial. He reportedly admitted to having sex with Hagenkord, but claimed that she had seduced him, and they engaged in consensual sex on 2 different occasions. He further testified that he only learned about the murder when he returned to the building to give back a tool he had borrowed from a neighbor. He also claimed he found out Hagenkord had been assaulted and abused following his arrest last year in New Mexico. Confronted with the DNA results in court, Lepere did not dispute that it was his semen found in Hagenkord's body. Testifying in his own defense, with his thinning hair tied in a ponytail with a rubber band, he said that he and Hagenkord twice had casual consensual sex, and that she was alive when he left her. Prosecutor Christopher Alex ridiculed Lepere's ridiculous claims that another man sexually assaulted and killed Hagenkord on the same day and in the same bed, the phantom culprit leaving no detectable semen of his own. Alex said that this amounted to the most incredible string of coincidences that could ever befall an innocent man, Alex said. The trial hasn't been concluded yet, but it seems like Lepere is going away for a long time. What do you think about these cold cases? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel for your regular dose of whodunits. See you in the next one. Stay safe, stay warm, and don't get any crazy ideas.